I'm going to be reading Matthew 5, verses 1 to 12. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he began to speak, and he taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The word of the Lord.
What is the good life? Is the good life a latte and a good book on a Sunday afternoon? Is it a hot holiday in the dead of winter? Is it #blessed or living my best life? Is it curated online? Is the good life about self-betterment, achieving our goals, acquiring wealth, pursuing leisure, gaining the respect of our peers? What is the good life? September always reminds me of January because it marks a new year. The kids are back in school, the summer holidays are over, we're settling into the rhythm of a predictable routine. And maybe we're rethinking last year's commitments. How do we want to spend our time and energy this year? What will the good life look like for us this year? There's hope, there's optimism. This year is going to be different. It's going to be better. Or it's just more of the same, or it's worse. We've lost loved ones this past year. We've lost a dear member of this faith community, Bill Rademacher, and the grief is ongoing. And maybe we're struggling with mental or physical health concerns. Things are hard, things are uncertain, and maybe the falling leaves are difficult to enjoy because they're harbingers of winter. The daylight hours are slowly diminishing, have you noticed? I'm not liking that. Whether we're energized and enthusiastic for a new year or feeling the weight of it, is there a way, regardless, to live the good life? And how do we figure out exactly what that is? This fall's teaching series is going to explore Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. It's Jesus' inaugural address describing what life under the reign of God looks like. It's a picture of the good life, God's good world, and the good life in God's good world. So Jesus starts with a series of blessings or beatitudes from the Latin word for blessed. To bless is to proclaim the favor of God. Jesus is saying, "I see you, you who are poor in spirit. God's favor is upon you. I see you, you who mourn. God's favor is upon you. I see you, you who are meek. God's favor is upon you. I see you, you who long for righteousness, you who are merciful, you who are pure in heart, you who are peacemakers, and you who are persecuted. God's favor is upon all of you. You are all blessed." Everything changes when we accept the blessing of God, when we live with the awareness that God sees us and loves us and is with us, even when we're poor in spirit, and even when we mourn, and maybe especially then. And everything changes when we catch the vision of the good life Jesus describes, because the blessings of Jesus are not only a gift, they're a calling. The good life is about being poor in spirit and comforted in our mourning. The good life is about being meek and longing for righteousness. The good life is about showing mercy and being pure in heart and making peace. And the good life is accepting that we might be persecuted, we might be hated for all of this. Society teaches us that the only place worth going is up. The good life is up the social ladder, up to the places of power, and up on that pile of cash. But Jesus teaches us the good life is down to where the poor and the poor in spirit live, down to where the grieving is, where there's actually a need for God, down to where the meek, the merciful, and the persecuted are. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. They will inherit the earth. They will see God and be called children of God. That is weird. How unlike the normal order of things. Jesus' vision of the good life is good news because it is not stressful. It is not about proving and perfecting. It is not about domination and control. It is not about upward mobility at all. Jesus' vision of the good life is good news because it's about being blessed even when everything is hard. It's about being at peace in the messiness and the risk that is inherent in following Jesus. And it's about being part of a gentler, kinder kingdom than we could ever imagine. Children imagine the world this way, but adults tend to lose the vision somewhere along our disillusioned way. And it's why I thought we could benefit from this image for our title slide today. A reminder the kingdom of heaven belongs to children and to adults with childlike hearts. Jesus shows us what's possible, an alternative to our competitive striving for power and for wealth and for status. But the choice is ours. We can keep spinning on the hamster wheel, or we can step off and live in a more peaceful realm. It won't be a life without suffering, but it also won't be a life without comfort. We're going to be in the good company of Jesus and his friends. This is the good life. Not the being good life, not the easy life, not the always happy life, not the winner takes all life. The good life is where our poverty of spirit is not only accepted, but it's blessed. We're humbly dependent on the grace of God. Frederick Buechner says the poor in spirit are the ones who, spiritually speaking, have absolutely nothing to give and absolutely everything to receive. And that sounds like freedom to me because it takes the pressure off. I can receive. The good life is where our grief meets God's comfort, and our meekness isn't a liability, but a virtue. It's a gentle way of being in the world. The good life is where we know we're not righteous, but we want to be. We long for God to make things right in us and in our world. And the good life is where we're part of making things right, being merciful, being pure in heart. And purity in heart isn't about being perfect, or no one would qualify for the blessing. It's more like a singularity of purpose, unwavering devotion to God. Peacemaking also helps make things right and is part of the good life. And I like how Paul puts it in his letter to the church in Rome. If it is possible, as so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. And finally, the good life is not about freaking out when we're despised for living this way. The good life, as Jesus describes it, upsets the power structures, so we shouldn't be surprised at the pushback. And so now, before we get discouraged, we can't do all that. We're not that way. It might help to just picture Jesus on that mountain, sitting on the grass, or maybe on a large rock. Jesus embodied the blessings. Jesus was meek. Jesus was merciful. Jesus was pure in heart. Jesus was a gentle man announcing God's favor, saying what was already true about his listeners, not setting out a list of demands. Jewish scholar Amy Jill Levine writes, Jesus is not telling us in these chapters how horrible we are. To the contrary, the Sermon on the Mount assures us that we are wondrous creatures with unlimited potential. We already have the gifts needed to live into the kingdom of heaven. The Beatitudes aren't transactional. If you do this, you'll get this reward. The Beatitudes name what already is and what is possible. Kenneth Bailey, in his book, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes, explains, as a group, the Beatitudes do not mean, blessed are the people who do X because they will receive Y. Instead, they should be read with a sense, look at the authentic spirituality and joy of these people who have or will be given X. He says it's like the farmer's daughter who's going to inherit the farm. The farm isn't hers yet, but she's already blessed. And she's also not working to earn it. The Beatitudes give me hope. Hope that I'm enough and my imperfect life is enough. And hope that there is more. I'm learning to live with the dichotomy, the here and the not yet. The blessings of Jesus comfort me. They tell me I don't have to be a spiritual giant. I can be small. I can be poor in spirit. And I don't have to be up all the time. I can be down. I can be sad and I can grieve and still be blessed. The blessings of Jesus inspire me. I love it that Jesus honors the meek ones, the seekers of what's right, the merciful, the pure in heart, and the peacemakers, because they're the kind of people I want to be around, and they're the kind of people I want to be like. They make life better. Everything is so heated right now in our world. The level of vitriol is up and has been for quite some time. I just find that everyone is ticked off about something, and there is so much intensity and so much judgment. It is exhausting. So I find it encouraging that Jesus isn't saying, blessed are you stompers and shouters and spewers of negativity. Jesus is saying, blessed are you gentle ones, peaceful ones, merciful ones, for you get it. The kingdom of heaven is yours. Barbara Brown Taylor writes in her book, Gospel Medicine, I think Jesus should have asked the crowd to stand on their heads when he taught them the Beatitudes, because this is what he was doing. He was turning the known world upside down so that those who had been fighting for breath at the bottom of the human heap suddenly found themselves closest to heaven, while those who thought they were on top of things found themselves flat on their backs looking up. The trouble with #blessed and living my best life is that they don't acknowledge that a lot of life is difficult and a lot of life is messy. The good life Jesus envisions in the Beatitudes is refreshing because it includes those of us whose spiritual poverty feels like inadequacy, and those of us whose grief is often overwhelming. Blessed are you, Jesus says. The kingdom of heaven is yours. So let's be encouraged. Let's be inspired. Let's have the Beatitudes and other lessons from the Sermon on the Mount guide us this fall as we consider our lives, how we want to spend our time and our energy, and more to the point, who we want to be. To close, I'd like to read an excerpt from the Sermon on the Mount, an excerpt about the Sermon on the Mount from the Jesus Storybook Bible. This is my favorite children's Bible. Take note if you need to give it as a gift to some child you love. I think the writers have caught the vision. It's where I got the image for our title slide. And so the passage I'm about to read is not entitled the Sermon on the Mount, although that's what it is or what it's about, but rather it's entitled The Singer. And I love that. It puts our focus on the person of Jesus, which is important whenever we engage the words of Jesus. And here I could just go off on a really long tangent, but it's already getting late. We take the words of Jesus and we enshrine them in something sometimes separate from who he was and how he behaved and the way he spoke. And those two things have to come together. The medium is the message. And I love that this children's Bible compares the Sermon on the Mount to a song, because we all know that songs tend to move us more than sermons. And I think Jesus' teachings and the blessings we've looked at today are meant to move us. They're meant to free us and to inspire us and to empower us. So a little excerpt to close. The singer. Wherever Jesus went, lots of people went too. They loved being near him. Old people and young people, all kinds of people came to see Jesus. Sick people, well people, happy people, sad people, and worried people. Lots of them worrying about lots of things. What if we don't have enough food or clothes? Or suppose we run out of money? What if there isn't enough and everything goes wrong and we won't be all right? What then? When Jesus saw all the people, his heart was filled with love for them. They were like a little flock of sheep that didn't have a shepherd to take care of them. So Jesus sat them all down and he talked to them. And the people sat quietly on the grassy mountainside and listened. That, I think, is just subliminal messaging that the children are supposed to be like super quiet as they listen. Anyway, I think they might have chattered amongst themselves, but anyway. From where they sat, they could see the blue lake glittering below them and little fishing boats coming in from a night's catch. The spring air was fresh and clear. Jesus knew that God would always love and watch over the world he had made, everything in it, birds, flowers, trees, animals, everything, and most of all his children. Even though people had forgotten, the birds and the flowers hadn't forgotten. They still knew their song. It was the song all of God's creation had sung to him from the very beginning. It was the song people's hearts were made to sing. God made us. He loves us. He's very pleased with us. It was why Jesus had come into the world to sing them that wonderful song, to sing it not only with his voice but with his whole life, so that God's children could remember it and join in and sing it too. Amen.